Hey, Ashely, I'm super excited that you are here today. And fun fact, guys, I made a boo-boo on my schedule. So Ashely jumped in at the last minute, said, I want to get on there. And I'm like, why haven't we scheduled before? So I'm actually really excited you are here. And I would love to start with your story and like tell the listeners and the viewers, where you're coming from as far as your background and why you became an entrepreneur.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'd be happy to share my background. So my whole life, I actually wanted to be a teacher and went to college to be a teacher. I worked in a high-performing charter school in Brooklyn, New York for about 5 years. And that experience actually caused a lot of stress. It was a stressful environment. It was amazing. Loved my job, loved the kids, still love teaching as I continue to do it now as an entrepreneur. Right. But the environment was very stressful, took a toll on my health. And my boyfriend at that time said to me, we could keep going at this and time will fly by really fast. And this, 10 years, next thing you know, it could be 10 years and we're still doing the same thing and maybe not living the life that we really want, or we could take a total 180. And so we decided to leave New York City and leave our jobs and pursue other entrepreneurial passions. So for both of us, that was investing in real estate. And that's also when I decided to invest in myself via coaches, courses, certifications, and really embrace the journey of becoming an entrepreneur and starting my health coaching business. So
I don't even think I knew that. Like, I knew part of the story, but like not the whole story. So we have to dive into one thing. How did you get the courage? Because how many people do we know that don't get the courage to do big, scary things in their life? And even myself, I used to be way slower at making decisions. Now I kind of jump in and figure it out later because we just bought our third house. And honestly, I jumped in and I'm figuring it out. You know what I mean? But the Sarah 8-10 years ago wouldn't have done that. So how did you pull up the courage to say, we're moving, we're switching careers, we're doing this?
Yeah, it was scary. And I, like you, was that person that never saw my life looking like it does today. Like I just had this plan of I'm going to teach, and it's pretty obvious when you have a stable job like that, what the future can look like how it progresses and so on and so forth. And so I really wasn't this entrepreneurial person. I didn't see myself as a big risk taker. But I think discomfort or pain, right, is a great motivator. And the realization, my boyfriend is good at that. I mean, he really prompted me to think in the future, right? Like you're in pain now, but you're comfortable too. And think about how quickly 10 years could go by. Do you want in 10 years to still be in the same spot? Is this really us reaching our fullest potential? So that helped, to have someone in your corner really, giving you that reality check, and then just being in the pain of knowing like my health is at stake here. Maybe there is another possibility, for a different type of life. And I even remember speaking with my teacher friends, in passing, we would talk about other passions and like, if you were doing anything else or, in an alternate universe, what would you do? And I would always be like, oh my gosh, I want to be like, I don't know if you know Kayla Itsinas, the fitness person, right?
I've seen her page and stuff. Yeah.
You've seen her page, right? She was one of the original like fitness people on social media years ago. And I was like, I would love to do what she does, and looked up to her so much. And then here I am doing that. It's just, it's cool.
So technically you're still a teacher, right? Like I used to love teaching as well. It's one reason why I loved my clinical career, because I could, even though I was scared to death of public speaking, like what sense does that make? I was scared to death of it, but I loved doing like women's events, and I loved teaching and leading others to do something, right? So you're technically still teaching because you're changing people's mindsets and their nutrition and their fitness. But like, how did you gain knowledge to go from like daytime teacher to like fitness professional? I'm sure your story played a role in that too, as far as like what you were interested in.
Yeah, the fact that I still see myself as a teacher and do so much teaching is my favorite part of my job and what I do now as a health coach. Like, I just tell myself I still am a teacher. It's just instead of little 5-year-olds, I'm working with adults. So there's a shift there. But yes, fitness was always a part of my life. I've been weightlifting for more than a decade now. And so that felt like a safer thing to ease into. And also getting your initial personal training certification doesn't take as long as getting your nutrition knowledge and experience under your belt. So I started and got my personal training certification. I shadowed underneath an owner of a gym for a while and got to work with side by side with all these other trainers there and dip my feet in that side of things first, while then I, gradually pursued coaching from business coaches and other courses to expand my expertise over time. So it's taken almost 5 years now, but yeah, baby steps, one layer of expertise at a time, and then experience helps, of course.
Well, one thing I want to commend you on is the fact that you did something scary. Even though you were scared, you did it anyway. And I always have this saying that, the most successful people, especially the most successful women, because that's really, I'm all about women empowerment. They do things even when they're scared. And that's number one. Number two, you were willing to seek out and learn from others, the gyms, the business coaches, the courses. And you didn't say, oh, I'm just not going to go put myself in these networks to learn from other people. You found and sought out opportunities to do that. And that is why you are doing what you love now, to be honest, because, and I always say this with love on my podcast and then on social media and stuff, but people stay stuck because they're not willing to do uncomfortable things. And you decided that wasn't really the life you wanted. You weren't miserable, right? But you weren't fully happy. And that's how I was when I was deciding, like, man, do I want to do this clinical thing the rest of my life? And what's scarier, not really looking up in 5 years, like you said, it took 5 years. To me, what's scarier is looking up in 5 years and still being in the same place where now your stress is at an all-time high, your physical health and your burnout is at an all-time high. And you decided to do something about that. So I just want to commend you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That.
So like
it's easy to forget.
Yeah, it is easy to forget. And I think that's why I wanted to remind you that you did the work, and you're doing the work. And I also want to let everyone know that's listening or watching this is like, be like Ashely, like don't sit and wallow in the what ifs, like go take action, even if it's, reaching out to a local gym or reaching out to a business owner that or later on down the road, taking a course, hiring a mentor. Like, there's multiple ways to learn, but just don't sit and do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what you would tell your clients too, right?
Yeah. I remember calling gyms all over Nashville when I first moved to the city. I didn't know anyone and I didn't yet have my certification. Yeah. And I remember calling every gym in a list being like, will you hire me? I'm not certified, but kind of, is there any opportunity to get in there and learn from you even for free? Can we work something out? And I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I got, but it does take that scary step of accepting rejection and putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and it's having 2 seconds of courage. And if you can call a gym owner and ask if you can come shadow them, or if you can reach out and ask a business mentor a question, then you can also transpose that over into making more money and making more sales, because you can take the 2 seconds of courage. You called up the gym owner to go tell somebody about your program too. So to me, it's all skill development and using courage and overstepping your fear to get the results you want. It doesn't matter if it's we're reaching out to the gym owner, we're buying a new course or hiring a mentor, or we're in the DMs trying to tell someone like, girl, you're stuck and you need me, I also think just the fact that you were willing to get unstuck yourself transposes over to the type of client you're attracting, is that they're willing to do the same. I really think our energy alignment is what we're willing to do. We're going to attract people that are willing to do that as well.
I totally agree. It's true. Yeah. You got to lead by example.
Yes. So let's talk about your clients, girl. What do you do with your clients? Like if you took a new client, maybe just in a nutshell, step 1, 2, 3, what your main goals are and like what you really feel proud of with what you do with them.
Yeah. So I as a health coach, I see all of my clients' journey in the lens of 3 buckets or 3 aspects of health that we focus on. So the bottom of the pyramid, as I call it, or the foundation, is habits and routines that build an overall healthy lifestyle. So optimizing sleep and stress and learning how to build an environment that really sets you up for success. And then we branch out into the fun buckets of fitness and nutrition. And on the fitness side, I teach my clients how to strength train, lift weights, incorporate that as part of their life, and also balance any exercise that they really love, learn how to really optimize that balance of activity in a way that feels sustainable, fun, but also efficient and gets the results that they're looking for. And then on the nutrition side of things, I teach how to eat all foods in moderation. So again, we're focusing on sustainability so that we're actually enjoying life, but also how can we optimize our nutrition so that we're achieving a goal, whether that goal is fat loss or building muscle, or just eating for longevity, wanting to prevent disease and age really well. So we combine all 3 of those buckets. And of course, the journey is going to be customized to my specific client's goals. So that's what I'm most proud of is, that touch point and that relationship that we build so that I can really get to know my clients and what their life is like and what they want their life to look like. And then making sure that every check-in that we have, we're really grounding our next steps in data and looking at, are we actually on the way to building that life that you are looking for? Are you feeling better? Are you looking better? Or not? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
that was a lot, I know.
It definitely does. And I think we all have breakthroughs, right, in our coaching. Like, I'm sure what you do now is probably not what you did when you took your first client. So I think it's important to probably add on, okay, here was a struggle in the beginning and here's how I overcame it. So I am curious, like some breakthroughs maybe that you've had in the coaching aspect or maybe the sales aspect that you feel like have really changed the game for you, maybe over the last year or so. Because I think we all have those revelations in our business. So what are some of your revelations or breakthroughs that you've had?
I think the biggest revelation was realizing that I have the power to change, the coaching, and that goes for every aspect of it. So you mentioned like sales, but also the client journey or the actual service that you're providing. I think initially, maybe this is because I didn't have this background of business and sales. And so everything felt new, like a fish out of water. I'm a teacher and now I'm like wearing 50 hats. But I think this is relatable to any entrepreneur too. I think you get so attached to the first idea you have and maybe that first idea of what the business looks like or what the service is or, what you need to be like and how you do things. And it's partly because you're excited and you want to make it work. But that revelation of it doesn't have to be the first, like you're flexible, you're your own boss. You're literally the designer of the business. And it's important that you're happy and it feels really good energetically. And of course, the clients you're working with are having a good experience and of course, if you're happy and feel energetically, in line with what you're doing, they will obviously feel better. And so just knowing that you're not stuck, you can change the way you do things and feel it out over months and years, continue giving myself that permission to continually evolve as a business owner and as a coach and realize, I also think that people not only get attached to an idea, but sometimes maybe they think that other people are watching, like, at least I don't know if you ever had this feeling. I felt like people were watching every single little thing I did. And I was like, if I change, am I going to be judged or are they going to remember? I don't know what that self-doubt story was, but it was so silly. Looking back, I'm like, people don't care that much. They're not paying that close attention, you know? This is my journey, my business. And so that was so freeing. And that's allowed me to change the format in which I coach and the way I do sales and marketing, even the types of investments I make in myself. So that is like the number one revelation.
So two things from that I took away that I think the listeners can take away is, one, don't put yourself in a box of like what you do in month 1 is what you're also going to be continuing to do in month 6 and month 10 and year 3, right? Because to grow, you have to expand your box. And I think a lot of people do really think that the way they set up their offer in the beginning, for example, I could tell you it's like way different to have 5 clients than it is to have 100 clients. And I think a lot of people don't even think, how could I ever have 100 clients? I average 150 at any given time in my program. You know that, right? And everyone still gets so much attention and help. And I think most people think that's impossible, but it's because the lesson here of what you said was what you do in the beginning, be willing to evolve and grow that. And the best advice I could give is, when you feel like something is off, whether it's straining you or it's not servicing the client, identify it and fix it. And then you're evolving. Like, I don't know why people have this concept that I think it's just immaturity as a business owner. You know, we all probably think this way in the beginning, but they have a concept of like month 1 is going to be the same as month 6 no, because if you want to make more money and you want to grow and you want to get more clients, you're going to have to slowly over time change a few things, you know?
For sure.
Now, the second thing you said is when you said people, do you mean peers? When you said like what people would think, do you mean peers, or do you also mean like your ideal clients?
I said that thinking peers at first, because in the immature or the early stages of business owner, that's weirdly what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think you're focused on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's something I talk about a lot too. And like my first question is when someone says, well, I'm just not posting or I'm scared to go live. My question is always, well, what are you scared of? You know, like what part is it? And it's almost always the fact that they're going to get judged. And I remember when I first started going live, one of my first thoughts wasn't really about my peers, because back in like 2014, there wasn't a lot of nutrition or health coaches on Facebook, which is where I started. So it wasn't really my peers. It was more like what my high school friends or my coworkers were going to think. And technically, I guess those are peers as well, right? So for anyone listening, you know, obviously what Ashely's trying to say is like, you're not working for them. You're not putting out content for them. You're not trying to please them. And they're not definitely paying your bills. And they're not helping you build your dream life. They have zero relevance. But what's interesting you said too was like, they're actually not even probably really paying that much attention.
Yeah, I don't care. They really don't.
It's just a story we tell ourselves, y'all. Like, stop telling yourself a story and like making things up in your head. It's almost like creating problems that don't exist. You said something along the lines of basically you just kind of evolved your program. And one thing that I've never seen you do, which is such a positive thing, is you've never created a problem that wasn't in the present. So many times I'll hear, oh, well, I'm worried about what if this, and I'm like, but has this happened yet? And the answer is almost always no. And I'm like, well, then why are you creating the problem in your head? Like, stop creating the problem. So you're really good at that. You're really good at staying calm and relaxed. And I love that about you. I'm sure your clients love that about you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think teaching 35-year-olds in one room and learning how to de-escalate and multitask definitely helps with that.
Yeah.
Staying in the moment.
Yeah. I know a lot of those skills transpired over to your coaching, just a different age category and different type of teaching.
There's a lot more overlap than I ever thought.
Yeah. So what do you think your biggest lessons have been in business? Like if it maybe marketing or sales or how you've had to change things over the years, what are some like really big lessons that you've come to realize?
Yeah, I think the first one was definitely that revelation just on my power that I had to curate the experience for my clients and change whatever doesn't feel like it's working. Because maybe if you change something, it's not always because it was wrong or bad, but maybe it's just no longer working. Like you mentioned, the scale. And I didn't even really think about that when I first started talking about it. But now that I think about it, yeah, if you're going to grow and scale, then what was working with 5 or 10 clients isn't going to work. So it's not about it being a mistake, but it's just about being flexible and saying, okay, where is, what's going to change now, and be open-minded to that change. And then the other thing I think was, and I learned this through experience, but knowing that giving, even if you only have one client, and I think you say this a lot when it comes to social media, I think in terms of like one follower, if you only had one follower, but I'll say it in terms of one client. If you only have one person, that person is trusting you and paying you and looks to you for your expertise. So it's all about giving them the best possible experience. And I didn't realize this right away, but once I realized just giving my all and giving the best experience to whoever's in front of me, that will pay you back as time goes off. And I don't necessarily mean monetarily, but just,
Right.
People will talk, they'll share, they refer, and they also will give you feedback because they trust you. And then you can use that feedback and that experience to change course again and just kind of continue to get a program that gets great results for people and that you feel really good about. So I think they're under that same bucket of like flexibility and open-mindedness to growth, but focus on just like what is in front of you right now. You have one follower, on your social media page, like give them a great experience, give them value, teach them something so that one becomes 2, and not focus so much on, 150 clients. How does Sarah have that many people? How does she, just focus on like in the moment, what can you do to be the best, even with just the experience that you have so far, because when you're first starting, you don't have very much of it. So the only way you build that experience is, just do it. Like you said, just dive in.
Yeah. And the only difference between me and you guys is I've just been doing this longer. That's what I tell people all the time. Like, add 5 years to your life and then come back and tell me where you're at, because that's the bottom line. Is a lot of people are expecting $1 million growth in 3 months or 6 months. And I didn't hit $1 million for 4.5 years in my business. And lots of factors there, working full time, 2 young children, like we're all different too, right? We all have different lives. But I think that's more normal, is people having 3 to 5 year stories, not 3 to 6 month stories. But the internet makes us believe things do happen overnight. So it's just being sensible in that, But I always say that the only difference between me and you guys is I just got some years on y'all. That's it.
I like that.
Yeah. And what you said though about one, I call that the power of one. The power of one client, the power of one share, the power of one follower, the power of 1 year. I mean, a lot of people aren't even willing to give their business a month. Like, come on. So the power of one, like you said, one client can actually turn into 5 or 6 or 10 because one person could refer you to that many people. One share could get you in front of thousands of new people. Had a client the other day, one girl shared her post to her story and she got 140 new ideal client followers in 1 day. And that has never happened on her page before, ever. In fact, I would say she struggled a little bit on Instagram, but one day, the power of one share.
Yeah.
And in 24 hours, look what happened. So it's like, I think it's the fear of the unknown, because we never know what's going to happen. And we always want more, bigger, faster, because we're overachievers.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
More, bigger, faster. That's what I always say. But yes, that was a great lesson. And so last couple things here as we wrap up. I really appreciate your story and everything you've done here so far today. And I'm sure everyone's like really inspired with the fact that you literally left a teaching career and became a health coach. So if someone is listening or watching and they're like, dang, like I'm a teacher or I'm a nurse or I'm a dietitian, like how can I, like, what would be your biggest advice for how you just jumped in? Because I know we talked about fear in the beginning and sounds like you just kind of did it, but what would you tell someone that's looking to kind of follow in your footsteps?
A couple of things. I think humbling yourself is number one, because going from a stable job, no matter how much money you're making, to starting over, if you're not able to do something more similar to what you did, Sarah, where you had a full-time job and are also building, this empire at the same time, which is a great strategy so that you are ready for that transition. Yeah. If you're doing it a little more like I did, then you have to be prepared for, humble yourself, be prepared for less money coming in. If like I had gone to pick up minimum wage jobs to like fill in the gaps while I was also shadowing and making like no money at the first gym I was at. And so that first 6 months to a year was just hard on the ego. It was like, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy, like I'm 28 years old. Like, it just it feels like you're going backwards. And so you have to kind of just mentally be prepared for that and humble yourself and say, sometimes we have to go backwards in order to go forwards. And then the second thing I would say is focus on what you love. So I wouldn't have been motivated only by pain and being like, well, I'll just take a chance and just do anything. I loved teaching and I knew I had to teach because that was my true passion. It wasn't like it had to be in an elementary school forever necessarily, or even having to do with education forever. But I knew that it would bring me joy and I would always have this ultimate desire and commitment to lifelong learning if it aligned with my passion of teaching. And then of course, fitness and nutrition. So make sure that, you're staying grounded, not only focused on building some type of large business or making X amount of dollars, but focusing on like, what do I actually love to do? Because then you're willing to, if you're staying with what you're passionate about, you're more willing to kind of push through those hard moments where you're being humbled, and you're questioning your whole life because you're like, well, okay, at least I am in alignment with the direction I want to go and the things that I really believe in.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you became an entrepreneur. Do things that are fun and enjoyable and that you love, and that kind of stuff. The love and the impact will carry you through because it's hard being an entrepreneur some days, and it's very rewarding other days. And I would say even on the hard days, I feel very rewarded because I do actually love what I do. And I think that's a great point to make is I feel like some people choose like their career, their entrepreneur life, or their niche even out of some other reason other than they truly just love it. And I think sometimes that really hinders making money because if you don't love what you're doing, it's actually going to show up in how you communicate, how your content looks. And you might as well love it and have fun. And then, oh, by the way, wow, I can make a lot of money with this too. So
yeah, focus on those strengths. Because then I also learned from you and, through experience, if you focus on your strengths and what you love as you grow your business, you can find people that also love the parts of your business that you don't love. And you can get help and hire. That's the beauty of the growth. So, focus in on those strengths and, it will get better.
Yes. I'm good at a lot of things, but doesn't mean I like doing them. So that's why there are people that love things like spreadsheets. I hate them. So if you love them, I love you.
Exactly. I feel you on that.
So what's next coming and exciting for you, girl, as we wrap up? And we'll definitely put all your contact information in the show notes and things, but what's coming up that you're really excited that you want to share here on the show?
I'm excited about an evergreen program that will be coming this spring very soon that encompasses all three parts that I talked about earlier. So instead of being so nutrition and macronutrition focused, having a more holistic approach, just like my one-on-one coaching experience is very holistic, my evergreen course is going to, have that same energy. And I'm really excited. So thanks for offering the opportunity for me to share that.
Yeah. So evergreen is a game changer. For those of you that don't know what that means, evergreen can be used in a lot of ways, but Evergreen is either something that's open all the time or always paying you. It can even be evergreen content, like a podcast, is evergreen because this podcast airs and it sits there and people can recirculate it. And so evergreen is a business term that just means it's always open, always working for you. And that is going to be Ashely's new business model, which is going to allow her to work less and impact more and have no cap on her revenue. And that's why I love, evergreen business models, because you know what? It's working smarter and not freaking harder. Hello.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to do it,
100%. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being here, girl. As always, I will definitely drop things down in the show notes so people can follow you. And if you're looking for any, nutrition or fitness coaching, you definitely need to check Ashely out. So we'll put all her details down below. And I appreciate you being here. Thanks for jumping on at the last minute.